The Danganronpa endings are a fucking mess. I'm sorry, you guys know I love Trial 6, but that's not to say that it is without its flaws, okay? And I'm going to be talking about flaws, a number of flaws, that every single Danganronpa ending has. Okay, jumping straight into the first point, they're too fucking long. They're really, really long, and it gets worse as the series goes on, as you can imagine. I believe Trial 6 of Danganronpa 1 is 2.5 hours, Trial 6 of Danganronpa 2 is 3 hours, and Trial 6 of V3, 4 fucking hours. 4 hours! Are you taking the piss? An entire game could fit in that time. 4 hours? Do you know how long 4 hours is? That's how long the final trial of V3 is. I understand there's reasons for the trials being as long as they are, but they could so easily condense some of this stuff. There's no reason for these trials to be as long as they are. And it gets worse as the series goes along. Okay, this series, trials, I don't know if it's just me who's noticed this, but they repeat stuff in the trials so much. It's as if the trials think you're a fucking idiot, okay? They make a point like an hour into the trial, and 2 more hours have passed, they've made that same point 5 more times. they just think you're gonna fucking forget. Number 2, poor structure and planning, okay? The amount that Junko and Tsumugi yap your fucking ears off in these trials is absolutely ridiculous. That's why these trials are poorly thought out, because, like, Tsumugi spends a solid 3 hours just yapping your fucking ear off in the V3 final trial. And it's the same with Junko in the first 2 trials. Completely yapping your ear off, saying a lot of things that, you know, while I understand that a lot of these things need to be said, a lot of them don't, and it's just adding on shit to the runtime for no reason. I get that a lot of the time this series doesn't take itself seriously, and not a lot of things that the masterminds say in these trials are just them being silly and charismatic and whatnot. But it's like half the shit that comes out of their mouth isn't even of any substance, it's just words. And yeah, every now and again is fine, but those words add up, and all of a sudden, by the end of the trial, you've got an extra half hour of just shit spewed from Junko's mouth that you never needed to hear. Number 3, and this is kind of directly related to what I just said, unearned information. Okay, and this is one thing that pisses me off, especially with Danganronpa 1, because Danganronpa 1, story-wise, it really does feel like a well-crafted and well-structured mystery story, up until Trial 6. Trial 6 of Danganronpa 1 is awful, in my opinion, and it's for the exact reason that there's just so much information that wasn't earned at all. I understand why it's been written this way, and it's because they have to find a way to deliver this information, but they're not doing it in a natural or, like, climactic way at all. You understand what happened with Mukuro's murder, and at first, I think that's cool, okay? They start out with an actual trial, you trap Junko in a corner, but half of the shit that came out of her mouth in Trial 6 was stuff that she did not need to tell you at all. Like, yes, I know that by that point she didn't really care because the killing game was basically more or less over, but that being said, half the shit that came out of her mouth just didn't need to come out. It was just so that the information could be delivered, regardless of whether it made sense for it to happen or not. In a mystery story, you want the information that's given to you to have been earned. But a lot of the information given to you in the final trial of these games is not earned at all, and you're just told it because you are. You spend the entire game trying to figure out what's going on and why you've been trapped in this killing game, just for half of the shit that you're told in the final trial to be stuff that you never even earned the right to know. What makes mystery stories so interesting is when you finally get to the end and the protagonist and all the other people involved have finally come to understand what's going on and they've cracked the case, but in Danganronpa they like 20% crack the case, and then the other 80% of the information that they could have got is just spewed out the mastermind's mouth for no reason. And again, that kind of leads into my 4th point, which is the fact that these aren't really trials, okay? I know Danganronpa 1 started out with the trial of Mukuro, but again, a lot of the information that you get in that trial had absolutely nothing to do with what happened with Mukuro, and that is why it's kind of annoying. V3, again, does the same thing. It starts with a retrial of the first trial, and that aspect of the trial I adore, but then 80% of the shit that Tsumugi says after that had absolutely nothing to do with that and was not information that they had earned the right to know at all. Like, Tsumugi goes on in Trial 6 about how the killing game isn't over, it's gonna go on forever, and she's just telling you all this shit that you never earned the right to know, and it's like, why are you telling me all this? We haven't even trapped you in a corner. You're so confident that this is all gonna go to plan, and yet you're telling us all this shit in a mystery story, which we didn't have the right to know. Like, yes, I know character-wise there's a reason why they're saying all this stuff, because they don't have anything to lose, but for the sake of being a mystery story, and we're getting all this information because so much of the information is crammed and condensed into these final trials, and a lot of it doesn't feel like we earned it. And that leads on to my next point, which was the thumbnail. Information fucking overload. There's just so much in these trials, so much that didn't need to be said, so much that we never earned the right to hear be said, and so much that you could so easily condense, but was not condensed. I don't know if it's just me that feels this way, but so much information in these trials could so easily be condensed because you hear the same points over and over again, and it's like once you've condensed all this stuff, you've just about cut 40 minutes out of the fucking trials individually. You know, like modern day video games, especially like Call of Duty games and stuff, they're like fucking 300 gigabytes or some shit. That's how these trials feel. You know, they could condense this, but they don't. Not only is there an overload of information, but it is delivered completely unnaturally, and like I said before, it gets worse with each game. Okay, my 6th point is lack of a coherent structure, okay? I know each trial has phases, and for the most part, these trials flow very naturally, and they're somewhat well paced, but the pacing and structure of the final trials in each game is an absolute disaster, okay? It's all over the fucking place, and it's just hard to keep up with at times. Like, yes, I get it, shit has hit the fan in all these last trials, so stuff is gonna kinda be at least a little bit messy, but it's like it's just messy for the sake of it. There's so much shit going on, and none of it is in an order that makes any sense. And like I said before, this gets worse with every single trial. There's so much information being thrown at you in a completely random order, and like I said, so much of it is completely unearned, it just gets mind-numbing to a point. Okay, my final point, narrative imbalance, okay? It's like I say, it's a mystery story, right? And you learn tidbits of what's going on throughout the story, and that's cool. And then it gets to the big reveal, and it's like all of a sudden, you've gained 90% of all the information that you could have ever gained. Like 90% of the lore is delivered in these final trials, to the point where it's like, fucking hell, what was the point of those first 20 hours if you're going to deliver 90% of the content of the lore and the story in the last, like, fucking 3 hours? And I know that logic sounds kind of backwards, because at the end of the day, it's a mystery story. You're not going to figure everything out. But I feel like they shouldn't really leave everything until the end. There should be at least things that you can learn. And I know it kind of sounds stupid because the whole point is the mastermind is ensuring that you can't learn a lot of this stuff. But I feel like if you restructured the story and the way things worked, you could very easily fit that information in there without just blurting it all out of your arsehole in the last 3 hours of the game. I don't know, man. I just feel like the structure here could be a little bit better, to be honest with you. And that's my main problem with the endings, okay? You guys know I love V3's ending, which, after watching this video, you're probably thinking, what the fuck do you mean you love V3's ending? Like, yeah, I do. These problems aren't exactly what makes every single ending just completely terrible. These are just problems with the endings that I really do think need tweaking. And I love V3's ending because of the actual meat of what's being said. Yeah, I think there's too much of it, and the structure is all over the fucking place, and it gets worse with every single game, but the actual meat of the ending of V3 I adore, and the actual depth of the story and narrative being delivered and the message is incredible. It's just the way it's actually delivered in all 3 games. The endings could be better, but it's just not delivered or executed in the best way possible, and that's my main concern. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching this video. I just kind of yapped in this one. I am a big fat fucking hater, aren't I? I yap everyone's ear off. I'm like Samugi now, I'm yapping your ear off. Okay, sorry, I do apologize. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing down below, and if you want to see more content from me, then turn on notifications. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later. Peace out.
I just made a